On the microphones, pure and uncensored American straight talk. Never quit. You're locked and loaded with Chris Peranto and Ian Scotto. This is the Battleline Podcast.
Battleline Podcast. We haven't had an in-studio guest in a while, so I'm actually really excited about this. Got Gary Brugman here, Jeffrey Atticott, who we will get into, like, who both of you guys are. The interesting thing, and I think Chris knows this, is like when you met Chris pretty much around the time that we just started the podcast, you were like, I'm ready to come into New York for this. And I was saying to Gary, I'm like, we just started this. I don't know if you want to take a trip all the way to New York just for this little podcast we started. But you, first of all, we're growing. But you made a pretty big trip out of this. I mean, I saw that you were at Senator Cruz's office. You've been on other talk shows, so.
I'm trying to push my pardon. So I took this as an opportunity to come live on your show and meet you. And I'm actually from here. So I got to see some people, and I went down to D.C., and it's just a perfect opportunity. I said, I'm coming. I'm coming to New York.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I didn't know you were originally from here. You're in Texas now, right?
Yeah, I've been in Texas since '98, since I joined the Border Patrol.
Cool. You're good, man. What about you, Gary? I said Gary, Jeffrey. Losing my mind here.
Yeah, I'm the son of a 30-year career military veteran, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I did 20 years in the Army myself. I'm now a law professor in San Antonio, Texas at St. Mary's University School of Law, and I run the Warrior Defense Project at the law school. That's cool. Gary's one of our clients.
And I want to get into the whole case. I also want to get into Gary's background, of course. But the first thing I wanted to start off with, it's been a pretty crazy week for you, Chris, because it originally started since the last episode. We had and there's been like multiple of them, but we had a fake Chris Peranto on Twitter asking people for donations. God knows where they go. And then we eventually got this guy kicked off. Then there was another fake one who popped up on Instagram, and somehow you got your real account suspended by them.
Yeah, that's just Instagram for you, brother. Honestly, I've been dealing with that kind of stuff where people impersonate and ask for money, and then I've been on the other side too, where as women have said, I actually, this guy was asking for money. I sent him money. Can you give me money? And it was actually to con me by saying that they were conned and asking for me to pay them back because they thought they were giving money directly to me. And so it's just part of the world. The only problem is that Instagram is such a clown show over there. It really is. Instagram, as far as getting yourself a blue check mark, where Facebook actually has good standards. Instagram claims to be harder than Facebook. That's a bunch of BS. Instagram will blue check mark somebody that farts on YouTube if you get enough followers. But if you actually are a legitimate person out there making a difference, that, and I am. I think I am making a difference. Whether it's good or bad, there's a difference being made by the books that are being written out there, by the service, being portrayed in the movie and having stuff out there on TV as far as commercials, cheesy or not. I would think that it would warrant that verification, and by having people impersonate you asking for money and then people actually paying money to these people, I think that in itself should warrant a verification. But Instagram, I guess, like I said, I'm not cool enough. My jeans aren't skinny enough. I don't shave enough of my body parts. I don't have big enough boobs. I don't know what it is, but I can't get a verification. But this is what we were into. And then, to top it all off, the jackasses decided to, shut down my account because the guy that we were claiming was impersonating me. He claimed that I was impersonating myself, and he was the real Chris Peranto. And guess what? Well, there you go, Instagram. Here's your sign. As Bill Engvall would say, here's your sign. You just went full retard, guys. You really did. But that's just the nature of the game on Instagram.
Yeah, this is my theory on what's going on. And I mean, I have no connections at Instagram, so I could be completely wrong, but this is just me thinking common sense here. I have a feeling that Instagram just saw his account got reported and your account got reported, probably suspended them both with like a computer that does all this. And then I think by the time an actual human being looks at it, they would have to be like, this doesn't make sense. This guy is clearly the real account. Let's give him his account back. But maybe I'm being hopeful.
That's the problem is there's no way. And you try to find a number or, and, Facebook, you do get to talk to a real person. In fact, sometimes you'll get a direct line of chat. When I lost, when we first started and I lost my big Facebook account, to get it back, I actually was talking to a real person on the other side saying, hey guys, my Facebook account was taken down. My real one that has 300,000 followers, I need to get it back. And it did take a little while, but I was actually dealing with a real person, where on Instagram, you can't. And there's no way. I'm looking for phone numbers. Can I email? I can't even get into my own account to show the verification that this is actually me. And they have it already, though. That's the deal. They have my driver's license. They have passport without the number on there. They have it because I've tried to get the blue check mark before. So they've have all that, and I get turned down.
Out of curiosity, like the person you talked to on Facebook, was it like an actual person in America, or did it seem like it was someone at a call center in India?
No, you thought it was. No, it was an actual person in America, and I got their manager as well, saying, "Hey, we're getting this worked out." No, it was awesome. I was in complete shock, and I used to really hate on Facebook because I did really. Oh no, they're liberal this, liberal. I'll be honest. I don't think that anymore. Granted, I think they have liberal tendencies to go that way, but they really are, to my opinion, doing what they can to actually become a legitimate business after being crushed with the last election and being blamed for. They were blamed for Trump's victory, and they were blamed for Hillary's loss, and then they were blamed for Trump. Also, people just not hating on Trump too much. I mean, it was just on both sides they were getting hammered, and I think they are trying to clean themselves up because I dealt with a very good person. Yes, it was an American and a manager. And they actually said, yes, we'll get to the bottom of this. Extremely professional. Even when I wasn't. I was pissed. It's like, you mother effers, just because I like guns and this, and it wasn't like they were like, no, sir, that's not what it. And it brought me down. And I'm like, you know what, guys? And I apologize, guys. I took it the wrong way. I totally had a different view of what you guys are. You guys showed me that you aren't. And so that's when people, Facebook there's a shit and censoring. I really don't feel that way anymore. Instagram, yeah, I do. Instagram still is a clown show over there. They haven't got themselves fixed.
But believe it or not, I will praise Twitter, and I know you're not a fan of Twitter, in that they actually put the hammer down, and they're now saying that you cannot buy sponsored political posts from any party. So they just got rid of it completely, which I think is a pretty smart move because they're going to lose revenue. But it's just they're doing what they believe. They're like, we don't think there should be sponsored political speech.
Oh, and I Twitter, that was back in that time frame when I was on Twitter. And Twitter's just hate, man. That's why I got off Twitter. Twitter, and how many followers did I have when I got off it? Like 250,000, something like that. And people are like, you're an idiot. Like, no, I'm not. This is a terrible media platform. It is just anger. You post something good about something. We'll use Gary, for example. We'll post something good. Let's say Gary gets his pardon. He'll get some hits. Let's post something like, oh my gosh, the left hates the Border Patrol and they took Gary's. He's going to get, and this is just a comparison, but you're going to get 500,000 likes where you get for the hateful than you would for the 50,000 for the positive.
I've been hit on Twitter already.
I can't stand that, man. I can't stand that. Yeah, so it bothers me, Twitter. But that's why I got off Twitter. But again, if they're fixing themselves like Facebook, good on you. I got no problem with that. Instagram I just think Instagram's it's just a clown show. I don't know if it's liberal or not, really, on that side. I just don't think they know what the hell they're doing, or they don't care, or they just, I don't know, brother. All I know, in my case, my experience, there's got to be some sort of repercussions of what's going on, because it does affect my business.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah. Does affect monetarily. It's affecting my ability to promote and get the courses out there and so forth. But luckily, like I said, we've got the podcast. I've got Battleline Tactical. I got 14th Hour, so I can still put stuff out there. But the main account is what people are wanting to follow, and what I'd built up. When I got off it initially, I had 170,000 followers, and that was one of the reasons I got off it, because people kept impersonating me and they wouldn't give me the blue check. But then I come back on, I was up to 21,000, and it was growing quite quickly every day. And I'm not going to ever say that oh, this is politically motivated. Because people can see that I am not that crazy, outspoken, far. No, I'm not that person. I have my views, but they've also seen that I've also disagreed with Trump on a lot of things.
Oh yeah, we'll get into it later. I mean, Trump now working with Alan Dershowitz. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, and that's the thing with Instagram. I don't think they pay attention to that. I really do think it's the pop culture, or like you said, if you belong to a big company like Sirius, or you're represented by or you work for Paramount, or you work for a media outlet, then you're going to get your verification. Yeah, because I've seen producers at Fox that have like 500 followers have their don't have any idea.
Yeah, because all you need is the email address at Fox. When I was at Sirius, there were people like booked talent and stuff that didn't have followers, and they were verified. I obviously want to get to Gary and Jeffrey, like they're standing by patiently here.
Gary, you guys are awesome, Gary. I love you, man. Sorry I can't be there.
The next thing I want to get to before we get into that, just real quick, is that I know you're gearing up for SHOT Show with Maxim Defense. So this will be your final show before SHOT Show for people, looking to meet you.
Yep. Yeah, actually, it'll come out during when we're at Range Day is when the show will be going on. So, or you guys could be able to listen to it. I'll be out freezing. Vegas is always supposed to be hot. I mean, you got the last 2 Range Days we've been out there, been freezing. I hate it. It's in the wind. But it's miserable being out there. I think it's supposed to be 60 though, and halfway decent outside this time.
Good to me.
But yeah, SHOT Show.
It's 19 degrees here this morning.
Oh my God, yeah. And it was like summer here 2 days ago. I don't get it. Something's going on.
We're messing up this planet. I don't care what you guys say about that. You make there's certain global warming. But I've been a lot of places. We're messing this planet up. But we'll save that for another show. We'll talk about.
Okay, so with that, let's get into who our guests are, because people are probably listening. They're like, all right, these guys introduced themselves, but who are they? So Gary is former U.S. Border Patrol agent. He's now working to get his name cleared, get a full pardon from President Trump. Jeffrey, who we introduced, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Adicott, is an Army veteran, as he said, professor of law and the director of the Warrior Defense Project. Took on Gary's case pro bono. Warrior Defense Project represents cases like these involving veterans and service members. So I do obviously want to get into Gary's actual case, what happened, because I'll be honest, I've heard bits and pieces. I've read some stuff you've sent me. I haven't really heard from start to finish what happened. But before we get into that, I know you met Chris from one of his Battleline tactical courses, and, you being a former Border Patrol agent, I would just love to hear your story of how you got into Border Patrol and what made you want to do that with your life.
Well, honestly, I grew up here in New York City. And back in the 80s, ironically, what made me want to get into law enforcement was Cops, the show Cops. Didn't have any idea how to get around to doing that, because I grew up with my mom and my grandma. I was a street kid, had no guidance. So I joined the Coast Guard. And I did 9 years in the Coast Guard. And, I got a lot of law enforcement experience there, a lot of the search and rescue. And I was actually trying to become a New York City cop, but I passed the test. I scored real high, but it was taking years and years. And I was in the service, and the timing just wasn't right. I had a wife and kid at the time. I couldn't just leave the service and just wait. So Border Patrol called me first, and I ended up in Texas. Once I was living in Northport. I was stationed up in Eaton's Neck, and ended up in Eagle Pass, Texas. And it was a great job.
Cool, man. So let's get into what actually happened. And because I've seen, like I said, excerpts of things that you've said, I haven't heard, the actual story of start to finish, what went on with you. And I know that you had like a crazy experience in prison over this.
Yeah, that was 2 years of craziness. But, excuse me, in 2001, I had about 4 years, 3.5 years in the Border Patrol. And I chased a group of illegal aliens. They triggered some sensors. The scope truck, which is an infrared truck, says, hey, I got this group. I started chasing them. It was about 15. Chased them for a mile and a half, full speed, yelling in Spanish to stop. Párense, párense, párense. I was losing ground on them because I had 38 pounds of gear on. And a trainee agent, rookie agent, was with his partner. And he had 4 days on the job, fresh legs, came out and caught the group. I ran. He had them sitting in a semicircle. He's making motions with his hands for them to sit down. Some were standing in front of him. Some were sitting. There were two behind him that had their bags in the hand, and they were doing this, and I didn't know it was dark. I didn't know if they were going to jump the agent.
Well, for the people, because we can't see anything,
Right.
you're saying they look like they were
had
ready
their
to
bags.
fight.
They had their bags clutched in their hands, and they were squatting, and they were making motions like they were going to get up. I didn't know if they were going to jump the agent or if they were going to run after apprehension, which would have been an escape. So I ran up and I did what I was trained. I put my hand on my weapon, and I used my leg as an extension of my foot, and I pushed them on the ground with the bottom of my foot, 2 of them, and that was it. That's what I did. 6 weeks later, which was February 22nd, 2001, me and a bunch of other agents jumped a load of dope, 859 pounds.
Wow.
And there were 7 smugglers. We caught 5. There were 2 that were hiding. The infrared camera tower, which was a guy back at the station, guided me into their area because he could see them. I had my night vision, and I finally saw their silhouettes. When I went through the fence, they started running. So I started chasing them. They went towards a fence. They got to the fence, but I was too close, so they made a hard right and started running the fence line. I knew there was another fence line that was going to cut them off. And I was within an arm's reach of them, 3 or 4 feet behind them. The first guy made like Superman and dove in between the barbed wire fences. The second guy hit the fence and flopped over, and I had momentum and body armor on, so I did the same thing. We were all on the other side of the fence. The first guy got up and ran. The second guy was getting up, and I grabbed him by the legs, and we started tuffling in the tall grass. And in one of the moves, I guess when I was trying to get to my feet, next thing I saw was my boots and the stars in the same picture, and he body slammed me on the ground. Once he body slammed me, he jumped on top of me, grabbed me by my neck. I grabbed him by his shirt, and he pinned my right hand to the ground, and basically he was straddling on me as I was sitting. I couldn't get up. He was choking my neck. I was starting to see some spots, and I thought to myself, I'm going to die. I'm losing my breath. I'm seeing spots. I got, for a split second, I thought, so this is how it ends?
And this guy you're a big guy. This guy must have been a pretty powerful.
He was actually pretty short, but he was wide. He was really wide because they use those guys to carry 80-pound backpacks through for, 20, 30 miles to get through the brush.
Yeah.
So that I figured he had the leverage on me. So when I went to get up, he was already standing up and he just body slammed me. So at this time, I'm thinking I'm not going to let myself die here. This isn't, So he was wearing a polo shirt, and I still remember looking at the button on his polo shirt. And whenever I tell this story, I still bring myself back there, and I can smell the guy's body odor. I can taste his sweat because he was sweating on my face. Everything was slippery. And I looked at the guy's shirt button, and I said, if I can get to my gun, that's where I'm going to put the bullet. And I even thought to myself, I'm going to have to turn my head. I might lose an eardrum, but I couldn't get my hand free. And I said, if I pull my gun out, he's going to take it, and I'm really going to be done. So I said, God, give me strength. And I managed to twist my hand out from his grip, and I punched him on the side of the temple. He fell over to my left, and I rolled on top of him, and I put my forearm into his throat. Now I'm on top of him, but we're both tired, and I can feel him. His arm was underneath me. I can feel him grabbing at my gun belt, grabbing at my handcuffs. I was like, oh, this is where this ends. So I gave him 3 punches in the nose. He broke his nose. He said, officer, please stop hitting me. I said, then stop fighting. Stop fighting. And he kind of went limp, and I laid on top of him. I can get to my radio, which was on my shoulder mic. I called for help, and there were units. I could see the units all around me, but we were in tall grass. They couldn't see me. So, make a long story short, he ended up with a broken nose. He got sentenced to 57 months in prison. All right, end of that.
Yeah.
March 15th, I get my gun taken away, and I get sat behind a desk. And for the next 16 months, nobody knows why. My bosses and the Border Patrol, they're like, it's not us. We don't know what's going on. The Border Patrol has nothing to do with this. Well, apparently, the first guy that I pushed on the ground in January of 2001 went to the Mexican consulate, or managed to speak to the consulate. Consulate went to the U.S. Attorney. U.S. Attorney went to the Department of State, and the Inspector General came down on me. And I was put under an 18-month investigation, never told why, never asked a question. During that time, 9/11 happened. I had to sit in an office and do desk duty because I couldn't even come back to my hometown to help with anything. Talk about feeling useless.
Yeah.
So the first time anybody ever asked me my version of the story was when I was sitting on a stand at my trial. So they spent one day on this guy that I pushed on the ground, and then they brought the dope smuggler out of prison. They ridded him out of prison.
The one that you fought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I wasn't even charged with. So they charged me with 18 USC 242 subsection B, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. But I didn't beat this guy. I didn't hit this guy. I didn't pound this guy. It took it took 1 day to go through the evidence on that first guy that I was charged with. And then they spent 4 days on the dope smuggler on that case, whose nose I broke, that I wasn't charged with. So I don't even understand how that happened. Do you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there at the trial. I wish I was your attorney at that time, but it was clearly a trial that was designed to convict you. The case was brought into Austin, Texas, and Austin, Texas, Texas is a red state, except for Austin.
For Austin, yeah.
Yeah, so
I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, they took him to the only spot in the state of Texas where you can get a jury that would get all excited about a charge for deprivation of human rights. And that was the charge. You deprive someone of basically their human rights, whatever that means. And that consisted of putting your foot on a non-compliant, illegal alien that understood your commands in Spanish but would not sit on the ground. He was not injured, no physical injuries whatsoever.
And these were adults, right? It's
Yeah.
not like, you know, because I could understand if maybe they said these were, I don't know, 10-year-old kids or something, But if these are grown adults, know what they're doing, not complying,
and
I don't get the problem.
So everybody out there, how the size, or did they bring the size in of the first person? I know they said the second person where you got in the fight with it. Yeah, but did they try to apply that? And was it somebody that was smaller? Did they have? And this is just me trying to get more information myself.
Right.
Is how could they? Yeah, because you think about how could they convict you? You're doing your job. I mean, that's what you do. All right. Well, was the guy 4 foot or lady or gender, whatever? Were they small? Did they have did they have some special needs? Were they not their brains not all there? Tell me, was it just normal? Your average male that was just fighting back.
They brought that up during the trial.
Yeah.
Because when I was in the fight with the dope smuggler, the U.S. attorney kept asking, well, why'd you punch him in the face? Does the Border Patrol teach you to punch people in the face? And I said, of course they do. We have 3 days of boxing. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of,
that's Well, the first guy, how big was he, though? And I'm asking, Gary, and the reason I'm asking is because as a listener out there, if I'm listening to this podcast, I'm wanting, because now I'm trying to do my assessment so I can phase out everything. It's like, well, wait a second. Now, so was that first person big, small, the one you put your foot on?
Both of these guys were about 5'8".
So they're male, normal size. Mm-hmm. Nothing's wrong. They weren't handicapped at all. Nothing. Yes, that's what I'm getting at. That's
they were a little smaller than me. I'm 200. Well, at the time I was 190, but yeah, they were a little smaller than me. Average size. Citizen of Mexico, they're not very tall.
Something, and also you don't know if they have a firearm on them. You don't know what they have.
That's the point.
And that's where I'm just trying to think. And what I do is I always play devil's advocate, even with stuff that's me. And I know it's completely wrong. You and I talked about it, and yeah, I know this. They're probably my size. We're just
they're about your size,
man. I'm the little Mexican guy. but that's where I'm trying to put it in perspective for people. If people are already out there, well, no, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. Well, I'm taking away, basically removing all the variables for anybody to have a doubt.
I get it.
And that's as us Rangers aren't all idiots. I mean, we are idiots. We drag our knuckles, but every once in a while we have some analytical thoughts, and we try to remove all the variables that would basically a prosecutor could use to find you guilty here. Like, now you remove all those variables. Like, wait a second, this don't make any sense. And that's what I want people out there to think.
I get it.
Start free thinking. Like, oh, this is what he did. Well, why? Okay, I get that. Maybe he was the person was 4 foot and was 90 pounds. He didn't need to do that. That still doesn't make you wrong. But we're removing all that. So now it's even more ridiculous and more ludicrous that you were convicted of anything, because yeah, you're doing your job. And anybody that's been in a situation, I have myself, same thing, where that person, you don't know what they have. What you don't hand pick them. You don't just use your kid gloves on them. This is your life. You're out, and in the dark too. That just intensifies it because you can't see. And night vision, guys out there, when you're actually going very quick on things, that night vision, yeah, it helps you see. We do it in the night, but when you're close up, it's still hard to see an outline of a gun or a knife or a weapon with that greenish hue. It doesn't matter how good the night vision is, whatever types of nods you're using. So, bro, and that's where I'm getting at too. I want people to understand that this was ridiculous. This shouldn't have happened. Whether you agree with law enforcement or not, I know some law enforcement guys are douchebags, and I know some that are outstanding individuals. And Border Patrol, my old machine assistant gunner, he was actually on your BORTAC team. He was Chris Voss. He was the one that actually shot the two fugitives out in the East Coast. And I was his team leader. Chris is awesome. Chris was the only guy that dude could outrun me, and I'm a fast runner. And he could beat me on the 2-miler. That's a little SOB. But I have a lot of respect for BORTAC guys because a lot of Rangers go there, and I understand that in those situations you don't have time to. Are you kidding me? I got to assess the situation right now in the dark, and I can't do anything to this person, and I can't try to apprehend him, and you never know what they're going to have on them. I want to get home.
When there's 2 agents and 15 subjects, it's hard to to tell, and getting to what you're saying, Chris. Oh, and I'm supposed to tell you something. Billy Coleman says hi before I forget.
Oh, hey, tell Billy hi, my man. Bill. I was Billy's shift leader in Iraq.
No kidding. Me and him worked together for many years on the border. He's one of my brothers.
And Billy is one of the nicest guys in the world.
He is.
Yeah, he'll mess you up if you give him reason to.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't, he's a cool, laid back, put his cowboy hat on, got his handlebar mustache down, and he doesn't want to hurt a fly unless he has to.
Exactly.
But if he doesn't, he is the nicest person in the world. And you're the same way, Gary. Chris Voss was the same way, the guy that works. And I think Chris may be done with the Border Patrol. I think he might be retired now. But you guys are the nicest, most patient people in the world. And for that to happen, the reason it happened is because you got to do your job. And it can be scary, and you have to defend yourself. But also you have to detain and stop people from coming over. And what you did, in my opinion, from what you're telling me, again, I wasn't there that night, so I'm not going to even act like I knew exactly what happened. All I know is what I've read and what you've told me. But from my point of view, that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's important to note that he wasn't charged with assault and battery. That was not the charge. The charge was, deprivation of human rights, whatever that means, under color of law. So clearly, it's a political correctness issue to assuage individuals that we know that illegal aliens are coming across the border, but we're going to take this stuff very seriously, and any agent that steps out of line. So it really had a terrible chilling effect on other agents. It still does. I mean, on the border, they're trying to do their job.
You're causing guys to second guess now.
Exactly.
And second guessing out there will get you killed or seriously hurt every time. You can't second guess. You have to maintain that those habitual movements that you're learning. But if you have that brief second of, I may be charged, so I may lose my job. Well, that split second, whoever you're chasing, that's when they pull a gun or they get out a club or they get a shank. And guess what? You're cut, you're shot, or you're hit over the head.
Exactly.
And you're done. And and then I'm glad you told the other story about where the guy he did have the jump on you and he had you on the throat. Mm-hmm. And you fought that off. But that's that split second that can happen. Now he's got you by the throat, and when they're under duress as well, their adrenaline is spiking. They may be on something, they may not. They're still going to be stronger than all hell. Yep.
I'm wondering if, since this was during the Bush years, a lot of this audience is probably familiar with Ramos and Compion. Was that around that same time that those guys got arrested?
Their incident happened 4 years after mine.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually their case. When I got out of prison in 2006, their incident happened because theirs happened in 2005. Their incident, Congress did a congressional inquiry into their case. And that's where they found my case. They go, hey, this U.S. attorney's done this before. So their case brought mine to light. When I was going...
But they got the full pardon when Bush was still in office, right?
They got their sentences commuted.
Got it. I thought they had a full pardon.
Yeah, but no, they didn't get it. They were actually petitioning for a pardon as well.
And they should.
It was the same prosecutor.
Well, are you guys in contact with each other?
Oh, we know each other.
I mean, I really think it would make sense to kind of unify on this and say that there's several border patrol agents.
I mention them in everything that I do, but they have their own petition, and I have mine and Gilmer Hernandez, who was a sheriff in Rock Springs as well. Same prosecutor put him in jail, and I always mention them in everything that I do, because
Yeah.
they're all good friends of mine. They actually called us, what was the Texas 4? They called us for a long time because the same prosecutor that put us all in jail.
Oh wow.
Hey, Gary, who was, and because I want people out there to know the guy's name. Who was the prosecutor? And then feel free to write this guy letters all you want, people out there. Feel free. What's his name?
The prosecutor, the U.S. attorney at the time was Johnny Sutton.
Sutton.
Yeah, Johnny
Okay.
Sutton. He's a good friend of the Bushes. They knew each other from when George Bush was a governor. He was a prosecutor in Houston area, and their families know each other. So there was nothing I can do to get around that. But his name's Johnny Sutton. He's got a private firm with the other U.S. attorney. I forgot his name.
I mean, but let's be honest here. I think people overlook it because of the Obama years. Bush was pretty weak on the border as well.
Yes.
Well, we haven't mentioned yet, what actually happened at the trial for your audience. He received 2 years in federal prison when he was convicted of this deprivation of human rights. 2 years.
Yeah,
And
and,
this is
I
what
know that you've
want to get into.
documented, what happened in those 2 years, because it sounds like it was brutal.
Yeah, Gary, could you do that? Because we want people to hear about this too, and then where you are now. But
Right.
this being, because we want to know what happened, but I want to hear, and I know the listeners out there, I would like them to hear your strength getting through that and coming out of it when you knew you were wrongfully accused, wrongfully charged, and now you had to basically eat a shit sandwich and do it, and you did it, and now what you're doing now, because when I saw you in Dallas, dude, you are the smile bigger than anything, or Fort Worth. So yeah, go into that if you don't mind, and tell us about that. When you heard that you were guilty, and then when you had to go to prison and your experience there, and then also, then we'll go on to what's going on now and what you're doing now. But yeah, go ahead, brother, please.
Well, Chris, when they found me at the trial, they had the assistant U.S. attorney. They had some projectors out there and showing pictures and stuff that I took. And then they had a civil rights trial lawyer that came down from D.C. that was a specialist on this. And this guy was really good when he was doing closing arguments and talking to the jury. For a split second, he had me convinced I was guilty. I was like, wait, that didn't happen,
Oh,
But
man.
but he was really good. And this guy, I ran into him in the bathroom before the trial ended. And he tells me, he goes, Halloween in Austin, because it was October 31st or 30th, close to there. And he says, are you going out? And I said, no, sir. You? He goes, no, I got a trial to win. So I asked him, do you really think I'm guilty of this? Do you really think I did this? He goes, doesn't matter what I think. I have a $50 million budget. Make sure you go to prison. It's just a matter of how long you're going to prison for. And then
that's it in a nutshell, brother.
And I felt this bucket of hot water just pour, I thought I pissed on myself, a whole body. I just felt I had this feeling. And when I got that guilty verdict, when they said guilty, the judge's clerk actually covered her mouth and went, and the judge's name was William Wayne Justice, and he's one of the most liberal judges that Texas had. And but I managed to stay out on appeal for a year after that. I started going to college because I started using my Chapter 31 benefits, voc rehab. And a year later, went to the appeals court, to the Fifth Circuit, and I lost. So I was waiting for that phone call for the judge, for my lawyer to call me. Says, "Hey, you have to go self-surrender," because I knew it was coming. And one morning, marshals came in, almost knocked my door off the hinges, pushed my mom down on the floor, and dragged me off to prison. And
yeah, man, that's the douchebaggery that I get with some of the law enforcement guys.
And by the way, like
there's some great guys out there, but damn it,
I'm sorry, but that doesn't get past the irony of your being convicted for a abuse of human rights, and they push your mom down on the
right,
floor,
exactly,
and that's somehow fine for human rights,
exactly.
American citizen, just coming into your home and
right.
Terrible, man.
And that's all you youngsters going into law enforcement stuff. You don't have to. It's not like you use your head. You don't have to come in crashing. If you have to come in crash into a room, do it. If there's actually a threat in there that might, but you got to use some common sense. And shoving your mom down. Honestly, brother, that's fisticuffs right there. And I'm not talking crap. I'm not talking
I get it.
But that's just there's disrespect. Again, mom, you can see it daytime. that's when you can actually see, say, I got an idea what's going on. I know things are moving quickly, but you should be well enough trained that you can figure that stuff out, and you can enter enough stress situations. Yeah, in the field at night where you're running with nods and big long grass, and who knows what the loom was that night, and there's 15 of them, that's different. Yeah, Ian hit it on the head. I mean, that's just irony. That's just jackassery right there,
exactly.
Brother. And I'm sorry for your mom for that, man. That's ridiculous.
And it's funny, whenever she's around and I tell this story, she comes right out. She goes, and they pushed me. She was 78 years old at the time.
Wow.
You know?
Terrible.
So, yeah, there you go, cool guys out there. Be tough pushing 78-year-old women around, crashing into a room of somebody that's supposed to be your brother, right? That's the brotherhood, right? Okay. Well, keep going, brother. Keep going.
They dragged me on. Right. They dragged me on, put me in a federal building. They processed me, and I ended up staying at one of those contract prisons. It was a GEO, and outsourcing prison, what used to be Wackenhut. Just a bunch of security guards. And I was there for 4 months in a cell, 24 hours a day. Just came out 3 days a week to go take a shower, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they had me there for 4 months. Then they transferred me. They put me on Con Air. And we were sitting there on the tarmac waiting for this airplane. And planes landing in Austin. And all of a sudden you see this plane with this black smoke coming out of it. I think it was a DC-10 is what they used to use. It's got some black smoke coming out of the jets, and it says Planet Airways, and that was Con Air. And I get on there, and marshals get out with shotguns, and I'm chained up, and they put me on there, and I'm like, this has got to be a freaking dream. There's got to be a dream. So they took me to Oklahoma City, which is a transfer center.
Okay.
And you know, Chris, when the plane lands in Oklahoma City, and it taxis around the airport, it gets to the terminal, and the jetway comes out. And when you walk out the jetway, you're in prison. The federal prison in Oklahoma City is on the airport. So I sat there.
I know that. Okay.
Then they took me to Coleman, Florida. They flew me to Coleman, Florida, and that's where I was for the first few months. I got jumped there because they found out I was a Border Patrol agent.
Sure.
And they wanted me to check myself into the solitary confinement. And I told them, I'm not going to solitary confinement. And they said, no, in here, you're locked up with us. And I took it as a good moment to think of the movie The Watchmen. I said, no, I wasn't afraid of 40 of you out there. I ain't afraid of 40 of you in here. You're locked up with me. And then I went to my cube and prayed to God how I was going to get out of this. So I ended up getting jumped when I was getting out of the shower. And we had a little bit of a fisticuff. And they ended up sending me to the maximum, to a high security prison in Atlanta, Georgia. The Georgia State Penitentiary, federal penitentiary in Atlanta. And they call it Castle Grayskull. And I have never, ever, ever seen these prison guards as big as they were there, Chris.
Wow.
These guys were, and I was sizing them up, and their thighs were as big as my waist.
Now, how was their demeanor, though? I mean, they're prison guards, but in comparison, you can be confident and still be forceful, or you can just be an asshole and throw people. But
during my whole time, I found a handful of guards that were compassionate to me and understanding. But the first thing they told me when I got into the system was, sit down. You need to understand the first thing. Your name's no longer Agent Brugman. It's Inmate Brugman. So you're not going to get any special treatment from my cops. And it was rough because, to the inmates, I was a cop, and to the cops, I was an inmate.
Yeah, it's double-edged sword, brother. I can't relate to it because I've never been in your position.
You don't want to be.
But I don't feel for it, man.
And when I was at that first prison in Coleman, Florida, I had a mad shitter. Who obviously knew, man, this guy took a dump in my bed, in my shoes, in my laundry. Never found out who it was.
Brother, you know what? That's a funny downrange. I had mad shooter too. This is on deployments too. So there's similarities between a mad shitter.
Just so you know, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Adicott is laughing.
And that's brother. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's one of those things though that it is good you could laugh about it now because at the time, I mean, this must have been like the most traumatizing experience just in general.
Ian, I'd go out to there were days when I had some good days, and I'd be heading out to the rec yard. I said, you know what, I'm gonna go play some handball. right? I'm going to try to get my mind off things. It's a beautiful day. Coleman is in Florida, so and on my way there, I'd feel that bucket of water I was telling you about earlier just come on me, and I walk back to my bunk, and I go into a hole for the next 6-8 weeks, and it was just this big up and down, you know.
No, that's a good segue, bro. Dude, tell people how you didn't. Put it simply, how you got through it, how you didn't end up hanging yourself with bed sheets in your jail cell, like Epstein. Epstein didn't hang himself, guys. I'm kidding. That was a joke. That was yeah. So that's my one political statement I'll make for this entire pod. But no, seriously, dude, because people want that. How did you get through it? And I want people to know that. So when they're having just I'm just having a shitty day because my car won't start. How they can I listen to Gary. He can get through. Or the mad shitter in prison, getting beat down in the shower, and he still managed to get through every day. I mean, I want to, because I want to know. I'll pull from those stories too, dude. So how did you, man? Even just pick one incident, maybe where a positive thought, and be specific if you could, because I want to know. I'm interested.
Well, I used to pray to God to give me a heart attack. God, like Eddie Murphy, God, please kill me. I prayed for him to give. I said, just end it right here. I'm done, Lord. And I kept thinking about the future. I was like, I'm not going to give up on this because, hey, don't think that I didn't want to come out and get back at everybody either,
Yeah.
But the one time,
I've been there.
The one time I found peace was when I ended up going to chapel because it was nothing but a bunch of inmates. We didn't have no offering to tithe, no nothing. It was just, and I felt strong there, and I started reading the Bible, and I just pulled me through it. And then, I just never quit. And I started thinking about my military service when we used to go out on rescues, and we thought that, man, this is getting tough. We're going to lose lives, and we're going to lose our own lives if we don't do this the right way in these seas. And because I know all you Army and Marine guys call me a freaking lifeguard because I was in the Coast Guard, but y'all can bite me. All right, y'all can bite me. But when you're out in 10, 15 foot seas and you got a boat that's capsized and people in the water, if you don't do shit right, everybody's going to die. Yeah. So, it was just like never quit. We had to keep moving forward. We didn't necessarily have to go back to our station, but we always had to go out and try to save somebody.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to get through this because I'm going to prove all these people wrong. And to this day, since I've been out, in 2006, I've been up, I've been down, I've been up, I've been down, and I've had a strong base of law enforcement guys that, cause me and Chance, we founded the Shadow Warrior Riders.
Yeah, Shadow Warrior Riders.
There's another club that I founded called the Iron Pigs, which is one of the largest law enforcement clubs in the country. And those guys have always had me and helped me up on high on a pedestal. They checked on my mom while I was in prison. They took her shopping. As a matter of fact, just recently, Christmas Eve, my mom was on the ground in her bedroom for 18 hours, and I was in Fort Worth. And I called on my brothers to go over there and knock the door down, and they all went there and took her to the hospital. So I've always had this base of law enforcement officers that I'm not going to give up on because I don't have a lot of family. I have some. I don't have a lot of family that I'm tight with. My brotherhood's what I'm tight with, and I bleed green. I bleed Border Patrol. And I bleed red, white, and blue because that's my country. And I'm just never going to quit, Chris.
Yeah, that's well said. And that's as simple as it is. We say the same thing, man. You just don't give up. And I get having the anger. Granted, you had more reason to be angry because anger towards people that screwed you over within the government because you were locked up where I was actually not, even though believe me, from the highest levels.
I know.
Yeah, but at least I was with my family and I was out, and that would have made it even worse, brother.
Chris, your incident when it happened hit me hard, and I've met a lot of you guys, and I know a lot of you guys really well. But like I was on a Sarah Carter show yesterday, and she wants to talk to you again. She misses you.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's been a friend of mine for 13 years. She's one of my biggest advocates, and she's never ever stopped trying to help me. And I tell them all the time, your incident hit me close because you got abandoned by the government too, in a different way. But I know what it's like to be abandoned by the government and the country that you served.
That you served, that you gave your life to, and that you're continually now. You just make it better. What you're doing now is just you gotta get the truth out there and to help with with your attorney there as well, fighting back, and you got to, and do it the right way as you're doing it right now. And like I said, you do clean up well too, because I tell you, in Fort Worth, I was like, Ian, this dude, I don't know if we should have him on the show. He's dirty. No, I'm kidding. Like, that ain't Gary. You got a shirt and tie and everything.
Hey, I know how to dress.
You do know. Well, but so what? Tell me, you got this. You're moving on, and I know I'm stealing Ian's thunder here. This is Ian. I'm usually the color guy. I'm usually not the one that's actually directing the conversation. What am I doing, Ian? I need to stay in my damn lane. I'm sorry about this. But what's going on now? Like you with your attorney there, and well, besides getting out there, how is the pardon going? What's going on with that? I mean, what point? And feel free, whoever wants to take that question.
Before I let him explain that, I got another really good friend that has pushed me since I've been out of prison. His name is Joe Pags. He's got a Joe Pags show in San Antonio.
Oh, I've met him.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's one of my best friends. And Jeffrey is one of his contributors on his show. So when Jeffrey heard about me, he had me call him, and he took my case on.
And Warrior Defense Project, you guys do this for several service members.
Yeah, there's about 200 law schools in the country that are ABA approved, and St. Mary's University School of Law is in San Antonio, Texas. And so the Warrior Defense Project was stood up this year. Prior to that, I was the director for the Center for Terrorism Law, and since 2007, I've been doing pro bono legal services for soldiers wrongfully accused of misconduct in the performance of their duties. And so I've done, dozens and dozens of cases over the years, from Green Berets charged with murder for shooting the enemy in combat. I was recently involved in Eddie Gallagher's case. There was another Navy SEAL that was being pressured by the government to rat him out, so I was his attorney. And so Gary came about 2 years ago. We linked up and heard his story and said, man, you qualify. We don't charge a penny for any of our services. And so the first step is to get get a pardon drafted up and send it to the Office of the Pardon Attorney. Now, the Office of the Pardon Attorney is a bureaucratic entity. You can go to their office in D.C., knock on the door, which I've done. No one will answer. They don't answer telephones. You cannot get in to see anybody. But there's a process that you file the pardon, which we did. They don't tell you how long it takes for them to process it, but it eventually is supposed to go from the Office of the Pardon Attorney to the Attorney General, to the President's Attorney, and then for consideration by the President. I've done another case, Saucier, the guy that took a photograph of his coffee cup in the submarine. I was his attorney, and I was successful.
That's right. I remember that.
So I got President Trump to pardon him, and what you have to do, because thousands of people, do requests for pardons through the pardoned office.
Of course.
So my goal is to get his case pulled out of the thousands of cases and move it up to the front of the line so the president can, act on it, because most of these he never even hears about.
Yeah, I was wondering do you have any idea if Donald Trump is aware of what went on with you?
I don't, not officially. Some people have told me that he has seen it, that he knows my name. I don't know anything concrete.
Because I really do feel like, and I think Chris and I have been very fair when we talk about the guy. There's things that he does that I think have been great. There's things that he does that I think have not been great. But on stuff like this, he's been pretty solid on, and I do feel like he's a very pro-Border Patrol guy. I think if he heard your case, he absolutely would pardon you.
I agree.
And this is where it bothers me with his pardons. You mentioned Eddie Gallagher. I don't think Eddie Gallagher should have been pardoned. Eddie, and that's from a special ops guy that's been in situations like that before.
And by the way, for people who don't know why you're saying that, I would say go back and listen to the Jack Murphy episode, because we cover that one in depth. But these are all different cases,
We talked about that. Yeah, definitely do. But your case, to me, that's cut and dry. Like, oh my gosh, this is he was literally in the line of fire, and still he didn't discharge his weapon. He didn't take out his baton. He didn't take out his stun gun.
Nothing.
He basically physically detained somebody that was threatening his life, and then the other. So
it sounds like no one even got hurt.
Now, and what I was charged with, the extent of his injuries were a loss of breath and a residual pain in his side.
Yeah, that's pretty much nothing.
So basically, he was winded because he'd been running so much, and he got a side ache. It's basically what his injury.
So, Chris, check this out. I'm going to throw in here. Okay, I had 2 agents testify against me. They were the ones the trainee agent that caught the group, and his journeyman, who was a good friend of mine. All right. There were 3 different stories. Each one of them had a different story. All right, because people were like, "Oh, well, he had 2 agents that testified against him." Yeah, but I had like 9 that testified on my behalf, including my supervisors. But the first agent, the trainee, first of all, the government had to change the time of day because this happened at 7:30 at night in January on the southern border, so it's nighttime. Okay, and they had to change it to be around 3:30 because they kept arguing the time. But the scope truck is the one that called the sensors in, and the scope truck doesn't even leave the station till 6:30 p.m. Okay, so that's the first thing. The trainee agent says that I ran up and he had the situation under control, and I kicked this guy so hard, and then I jumped on top of him, and I was punching him so hard that he can hear the breaths coming out of him. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Then I grabbed another guy and punched him, and maybe some punches to a third guy. The illegal alien says I never punched him. And
in fact, the illegal alien at trial couldn't identify Gary as the person that was there.
No. As a matter of fact, and my lawyer had me stand up. He told me, "Mr. Brugman, stand up." So I stood up, and he asked the illegal alien, "Is this the guy that kicked you?" And he looked at me, and he said, "I don't know."
And you're a recognizable guy, I would say. You really are. So.
I appreciate that.
I don't know if you had the same tattoos at the time, because that,
I did, except for that one.
Okay, yeah, the hand tattoo, would probably help in identifying.
So the other agent, Chris, says,
Go ahead.
Other agent says that he didn't see me punch the guy, but he heard me kick him. He didn't see me punch him because he was 80 yards away, but he heard the thud of the kick. So you heard the thud of the kick a football field away in the brush. But the alien can't remember which side I kicked him on. He couldn't remember if it was left or his right, but the guy heard it 80 yards away.
Yeah, and we're only getting one side because the other agent isn't here. But I still want to ask you, what do you think? What was his reasons to testify against you? I mean, was there a personal relationship issue? Did you know him?
No.
What do you think?
It was the U.S. attorney. The U.S. attorney says, "Listen, it's your name on this form. If you don't tell us, if you don't say this, we're going to prosecute you. You're the one that's going to lose your job." Because
and that's where again, if you're going
because they've done it to me.
Yeah, you have a nut sack. I mean, you stand up for that's what bothers me a lot. You have some balls if you're going to. Don't just cave under the pressure because an attorney or a congressman or even a bunch of congressmen when you're down in the basement of the Capitol
and I've been
saying that you're lying. Still stand up for yourself, man.
I've had U.S. attorney come up and tell me, "Well, I need you to say that you definitely saw him." I said, "Well, I definitely saw his footprint." All right, because we're border patrol agents. We cut sign, we follow tracks. I said this footprint matched his boot, but I need you to say that he was there. I'm not going to say that. I said I found when I arrested him, his footprint matched the boot.
So you know what I wanted to ask you? What was it like the process getting out of jail after? Did you serve all 2 years?
Oh, I was sentenced to 27 months, and I did 2 years of those 27.
So 2 years in prison. What was it like getting out? How'd you transition back to normal life? And people probably want to know what you're doing now. Jeffrey, okay, I know Jeffrey has to leave a little early, so I do want to mention, of course, Facebook.com/Warrior Defense Fund. Anything else you want to get out there for maybe similar cases?
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing with Gary's case, and I'm focused like a bulldog. Again, I spent a quarter of my career with the U.S. Army Special Forces, First Group, Fort Bragg Center Universe.
We appreciate that.
I mean, I don't quit. And service to country is what's in my blood. That's why I do this. I just met with the Congressional Warrior for Justice Caucus, which is or Justice for Warriors Caucus, which is a new entity of congressmen that are getting together, and their mission is to look at ways to reform military justice and to take on cases like these. So we're pushing them to assist us because that's what we got to do is get this to President Trump's ear. And I'm confident once the president understands what this case is about that we'll get a pardon like 24 hours later. He'll just pick up the phone and say, do it.
It sounds like it to me. So once again, Facebook.com/Warrior Defense Fund. Go shoot them a like. Thanks for coming in, Jeffrey. And back to what I was saying then for Gary, in those, days leaving prison, transitioning back to normal life, I would love to hear the story behind that.
When I was leaving, I was a nervous wreck. I had to go do 10 weeks. Over those 2 years, 10 weeks was in a halfway house in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Had I known the halfway house was going to be setting you up for failure the way that they did and the way they do with everybody, I would have stayed 10 weeks in the hole and in solitary confinement. because they want you to do all this stuff, but it just doesn't work. They set you up for failure. Quick example. I had a job. I was allowed to go to work, come back.
What were you doing?
I was working for a friend of mine who owned an off-road shop, Maximum Altitude in San Antonio, and they lift trucks and SEMA trucks and crazy. So I had that job 6 months before I got out. He goes, "You're coming to work for me." So I go to work, come back, go to work, come back. And then at the end of the week, he'd give me a paycheck, and I had to go cash the paycheck, and I'd have to give the halfway house a certain amount, and they'd save a certain amount because they had a savings fund for me, but I had to pay him for being there. So I'm going one day to cash my check. It was a Saturday. I had to sign out. I was going to go to Ace Check Cashing, and the girl that's working there the guard says, "Go to the money store because they give you free money orders." And I was like, "Well, I'm broke, so, $1.75, $1.75, right?" So I went to the money store. But my friend had moved his business, and the address didn't match the check. They wouldn't cash. She said, "Go to Ace Check Cashing." I was like, "Okay, it's across the street." So I went to Ace Check Cashing, they cashed my check, got a money order, went back, gave them their money, and that was on a Saturday. And that Sunday, I was supposed to be getting an 8-hour pass to go home and see my mom and my friends. Well, Sunday morning, I get up, and I'm getting ready to go, and the guy that's working, Mr. Jones, he was kind of cool. He goes, "Hey, man, where you going?" I was like, "Oh, they're coming to get me. I'm going home for 8 hours." He goes, "Man, you ain't going nowhere. You're up on charges." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And the girl that told me to go to the money store, she brought me up on charges of escape because I went to Ace Check Cashing. I brought the money order from Ace Check Cashing instead of from the money store, which is where I signed out. I said, "It's right across the street." "Yeah, but you weren't authorized to cross that street and go there."
Jeez.
I'm like, so what was I supposed to do? I was only gone for an hour.
So it's like you get out of jail after having to go through all this bullshit, and then you have to do, it's just like thing after thing of horrible events.
I can validate that because when I was in college, I worked at a halfway house for juvenile offenders that were coming out.
I feel like I've known everything about you, Chris. I did not know that.
I did because I was great in my criminal justice stuff. Because that's what I wanted to do initially before I went in the Army was law enforcement. Then I said, "No, I'm going to go be a ranger instead." But I worked it's called the Jacob Center, but it was a halfway house for juveniles. And they would get their little paychecks because they were allowed to work at certain points in time, but you could only cash it at a certain place. And there was one that did the same thing you did, went to one to cash check. They were closed, so went across to a pawn shop and went and then cashed it there. But as me being common sense, which a lot of people don't have nowadays, I could have charged. I said, nope, you violated what you were supposed to do. You weren't supposed to go there. I didn't. I was like, what happened? Well, they were closed. They wouldn't cash my check, so I went across the street. You're okay, brother. I get that. Yeah. I'd have done the same thing. Just get in here. Just don't let it happen again. Or I said, next time, just come back and tell me.
And then I'll go back out.
There. Yeah.
Well, that's what they said I should have said. And I get that.
But that's stupid. That's a person there shouldn't even have done that. That's just common sense. That's like saying, you know what? Made a mistake or whatever. You weren't doing anything wrong. You got to get your check cashed. I know you need money. And that's what I did. And that's what people should do that are working those positions. It's not just sometimes you follow the book, and sometimes that book is just a guideline, but you need to, and you use it as a guideline, but don't follow it to the letter, especially something as stupid as that. And that pisses me off. That makes me angry because I've been in those positions and I've seen those by the book people and they screw people over. They may actually make the system worse.
Exactly.
They don't help.
They set you up for failure, Chris.
Yeah.
And they took away my visitations for the next 3 weeks, my phones, so I couldn't talk to anybody. And I had extra duty, which meant cleaning the toilets and picking up cigarette butts.
You know what, brother? If I was working there at halfway house and I had a coworker like that did it, I would have ripped it. I would have ripped him or her and said, "You are an idiot," and we would have had a problem. We would have had an issue there because you got to use your common sense. And you still, even though with that, and you're criminal, you're a criminal or not, you're not I wouldn't consider you a criminal at all.
Thank you.
But it doesn't make a difference. You're in that halfway house. If you've actually committed a crime or you haven't, there still has to be some human element there that allows you. Or else you're going to stay. You're going to stay, and you're going to. That's where the recidivism rate goes. Why it stays up? It's like, well, shit. I'm trying to do the right thing. They're condemning me for it anyway. You have a good head on your shoulders. You know law enforcement. You actually have a base. I think you have a base from law enforcement in the military that you knew that, okay, you know what, screw them. I'm still going to succeed. Where somebody that doesn't have that background like you did, that never quit background, is going to say, you know what, to hell with society. Right. I'm just going to keep being a criminal because it doesn't matter if I do it right or wrong. Damn if I do, if I don't, I'm screwed either way. And that's where the problem is from idiots like that And I'll call you an idiot out there if you do that sort of thing, that don't use common sense and think they need to follow everything by the book, where you don't. Use your common sense. Use the guy's
I've come
line.
across a lot of those in my life, man.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, they're everywhere, man.
So
and they're in the military too.
Where did it go from there? I mean, because obviously you're not still there. This is many years later.
You know, I've had many people come into my life and have changed it, because I tell you what, had it not been for people like Joe Pag, Sarah Carter, my friend Ed Hendy in Houston, who owns a huge steakhouse, which I'll take you to one day, Chris. And,
yes, you will.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to warn you right now. Once you eat here, it's going to ruin your taste for steak, because nothing else is going to be the same.
Well, brother, you better be careful what you feed me. You're going to have another mad shitter on your hands, too. Because I tell you, that's a lot of steak, man. Be careful.
So I've had my ups and downs, man. I've had a couple of good years, and but there's not one day that goes by that I don't think Border Patrol. I should have retired. Well, I was eligible for retired in February of 2018 at age 51, 20 years in the Border Patrol and 9 years in the Coast Guard. So it would have been 29 years of service. And I've got nothing. And right now I'm at the low part because I just went through a divorce, and I'm basically staying in an Airbnb. I'm bouncing around. Don't have a steady home right now. I'm not homeless, like on the street homeless, but I don't know which direction I'm taking. So I don't want to get into a lease and not be somewhere I don't want to be.
And there's nothing wrong with that, brother. You're finding yourself again, and because you had a major traumatic, obviously huge traumatic incident in your life, and you're trying to get right. Just what I took to tell you, and because it overcame me 3 years, and it's since gone. I've let it go, dude. That anger will eat you up, and I know I can hear it in your voice a little bit, because I was the same way up until probably last year.
Right.
For 4 years, just angry, because it's like, no, it didn't matter which side, what politician, this or that, I was going to get screwed either way. And I hated it. I hated everything. And people took advantage of me, and I led it to myself. I'm not crybaby, and it was my fault. But the anger is what clouded your judgment. So do what you're doing, brother. You're doing great. Just don't let it cloud you. And maybe this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Hey, you're supposed to be bouncing around. So I really find a place that feels like home. Beat your dirt, dude. Beat your dirt. Bounce around until you find what was it called, Springville or whatever.
Right.
And that'll be your home. And you're going to feel it, dude. You're going to feel like
I'm doing all right, man. That book signing you had was a real good.
That was.
It charged my batteries, man. It was good being there. And I hope you didn't mind, because I was kind of like there, but I've been at a lot of even back in the 80s, a lot of like record signings and book signings, and people stand on line and it's like, okay, you're 1 through 50, you're 50 through 100, and they're like, okay, next group. And I've been there, and it sucks. And I wanted to make your book signing like the best one they ever had. So that's, people were like waiting to get to the front of the line, and you knew everybody by name when they got there.
Yeah, no, we had you had some good guys, Rob.
Yeah,
bad Rob helping you, and Jeremy is awesome. Those guys are top-notch guys. Man.
Let me tell you, man, that merch guy that you got, Jeremy.
Jeremy, he's awesome.
Jeremy,
he's salt of the earth. Bro.
He needs to go. He's got to go.
He's got. Sorry, so, hey Jeremy, that's just says you need to go, because then I can hire Gary for your position, man. You're not saying that you're bad. Jeremy's awesome and better, but again, that was, and thank you guys for making it so good and keep me there for 5.5 hours signing books. Right. I really appreciate that. That was awesome.
And since that day, actually since before that, but especially since that day, both Rob, Christy, and Jeremy have always stayed in touch with me, making sure I'm all right. My mom just went through an incident, and they saw it, and she's constantly in their prayers. And, you got a great team, brother.
You got, and if you're in New York City, Audacious Andy is there, man.
Yes,
he's in New York City right now. Yep. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what. Go to a Looney's and she's a sweetheart, and she'll listen to you. And go to a Looney's down there on 7th and Broadway. Looney's is huge in New York City. Huge veteran supporters.
Roger that.
Emmett O'Looney's used to have it.
You know what? I think she told me Pantera was playing the other night.
What do you say?
I think Pantera's playing there tonight.
Oh, is this you breaking Chris's balls over? Because he listened to the Pat McNamara episode. And he's like, how is Chris unaware that Pantera's no longer around? Because I know you said you wanted to get into the metal stuff. So.
I swear to God, I had no idea that Diamond had died. I had no, dude, seriously.
Dimebag ends Vinnie Paul. I mean, and it's a crazy story.
I had just listened to them on I listened to Octane on Sirius, and
Dimebag died in 2005.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason is, I mean, to be fair, it's like I was in college, Chris was overseas, probably, risking your life. The last thing on your mind was Pantera. I guess.
Right. And that's when people, and that's is it to me? I guess I never really pay attention to the artist personally. I just listen to the music, and that's where it was. If I'm hearing the music, I'm just assuming they're alive. I listen to Elvis radio. I still think Elvis is alive, dude. I mean,
Elvis is alive.
Elvis. Well played, dude.
You know what I was going to ask you, by the way? So, this whole thing with that you want to get a pardon, right. Is this more symbolic than anything? I mean, do you plan to be a Border Patrol agent again if you can? Can you be a Border Patrol agent again?
One, I'm too old.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I'm too old. But I would like to get my police license in Texas. That's one of my plans because I never finished serving. I still got this thing that I need to do. And and I couldn't go overseas. I couldn't be a contractor. I couldn't even wipe tables for KBR in Iraq because I can't get a clearance.
Yeah.
So I want and I can't vote. I can't. And I got a bachelor's degree and associate's degree since I've been out. And I worked in the oil. Awesome. I worked in the oil fields, and I can only get to this certain level. I can't get into the corporate level because I have a felony.
Yeah.
I can't vote. And I didn't have a criminal history before that. I don't have one after that. And I'm just tired of being a felon. Yeah. And I want my rights back. I want to be able to carry a firearm back.
Makes perfect sense. Because the reason I was wondering, because like Chris, for example, you want to get your clearance back, and you're the first to say it really is more symbolic. You're like, I don't plan on using it, but you just want to be able to say I have it because you didn't do anything wrong.
If I can get a pardon, and I'd like to go back to work for the federal government in any capacity, at the VA, Social Security, something, because I got 16 years of Fed time, and I don't have a retirement. I'd like to, right now, the way it's looking, I'm going to have to, I'll be able to be retired for 10 minutes when I'm 75.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So, I want to go back to work. I'm tired of being a felon. I think I've paid my time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I've done a lot to prove myself that I'm not a criminal. And I want that, the charge will never be gone because it's a federal charge. It's always going to sit there. But, if the president pardons, it's like it never happened. So,
and Brad, you're not a felon in my book. I don't see as that. I know it. So I hope more people say that to you because you're not. You served. You got whatever. It's not even a black mark. You just got caught in a political bullshit. You're like us, dude. And just that's beneath you. Politics are really the lowest of the low anymore. It's not even.
It is.
Being a politician, I think, used to be looked at as a sign of success, where now it's the exact opposite. And it's because politics is it's bullshit without anything, any reverence to people that actually are out there serving. They say they do. Oh yeah, they say, oh yeah, we support you, we support you, we support you, until it doesn't help in an election, and then they don't support you anymore. Or until it does help you in an election, and then, okay, we're done with you here. We don't need you anymore. We're going to go find the next flavor that helps us get elected. So, but that being said, to use this as your advantage when you have the opportunity, because your story could help President Trump win the next election. It very well could. Brother, I'm going to tell you right now, use it. Get it done. Get your pardon. See, thank you. Thanks for playing, y'all. I appreciate it. I'm going to go be happy now, live in Texas, get my guns back, go to the range and shoot, go fish, and live my life and be done with it. Then you got some closure. I think you deserve that.
I was telling Sarah yesterday, it's 2020. I'm done with the past 19 years. And my divorce I just found out last week, my divorce was actually signed December 21st. So it's official. Left that in the past as well. And I was telling her the last time I've been happy in the past 20 years for a while, but the last time I actually was happy and had peace of mind and was actually able to enjoy the day was in 2000, before all this happened. That's the last time I actually had peace of mind. And that's what I want again. I want to be able to enjoy a day. You know, I want to be able to breathe the air, and it's difficult when you've got this lurking on you. Everybody says, dude, just keep on living your life. It ain't nothing. It's a big thing. It's a big disability being a convicted felon.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like sitting down with you, hearing this now, I have a different understanding of it. Because before, when I was hearing about this, part of my mind was like, why does this guy even care so much? You're not looking to be a Border Patrol agent anymore. But I wasn't even thinking of all that goes in to being a felon for these people who don't even look into what you did and who would see the case and be like, this guy didn't do anything wrong. He was doing his job. And, you just want to be able to be viewed as a normal member of society, be able to go out and vote, be able to do, whatever you need to do to make a living, and be able to get to a certain level, as you said, without this lurking above you. And I fully get it a lot more now sitting down with you. And I think our audience will too. Like, I think when they hear a full hour and a half, 2 hours with you, it puts a lot of things into context.
And yeah, bro, you got an objective. You're moving towards that objective, and that's getting your name cleared. What I want you to prepare for, though, is once it is cleared and that objective, that goal's gone, there's going to be a little bit of I've experienced it myself. There's going to be a little bit of a vacuum. Like, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
I'm just going to tell you right now, the best thing to do, don't high five. Don't say, yes, I got your sons of bitches. Yeah, don't say that at all. Just mission accomplished, and then move on to whatever that next objective is. And that will help you go through. Guys that are just high-fiving this and that, they're the ones that really love the spotlight, need that attention, and then it's gone because you're not that shiny toy anymore. Now you're the old toy you put away, and you're still trying to reach for maybe be on more news, more media, this and that. Just keep that objective. Once you get it, mission accomplished. Now let's Charlie Mike and go on to whatever the next mission I need to do. The next mission could be just finally getting your house and settling in Silvertown. Silvertown, that's what it was called.
That's it.
Silvertown and just fishing every day. I mean, that's it. Or coming back on a podcast that me and Ian might still have 2-3 years from now.
I sure hope so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love to come back. And a lot of people ask me why when they see me, how come you're not bitter? How come you're not angry? I've been angry. and I'm still bitter. It's just, it takes too much energy to do that.
Yeah.
And I lived it for the past 20 years, and I'm tired because I could radiate some hate if I have to. Yeah. That's easy. Doing the wrong thing and being pissed off, and that's easy. Doing the right thing, having integrity and doing the right thing and moving forward, that's the hard part. Doing things right when nobody's looking.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man.
Definitely.
You know what I wanted to ask you about, because I know you wanted to get into this, and like we got into the whole case and everything. You're a hardcore metalhead.
Yes, sir.
I was looking back on the photos that you sent me.
Right.
I think a lot of this audience knows Ricky Rackman.
Yes, sir.
Headbangers Ball, done a lot with NASCAR. Good friend of yours, apparently. How did that friendship start?
Ricky Rackman?
Oh, yeah. Ricky's one of my best friends. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
yes, sir.
Awesome. Oh, my goodness. Yes.
He, what's really ironic is, I've known a lot of these metal bands from glam bands from the 80s. Back in the 80s, my cousins played in a couple of bands here in New York, Smash Gladys and Battalion. They were real big here in New York. In 85, we went out to L.A. And we ended up meeting all these bands, and we played with Faster Pussycat back in California.
So cool.
85.
I love that band, by the way. I saw them over the summer.
Right. Well, Tame Me Down, the whole bands are my best friends. The bass players know me since I was 17 years old. And, they're like my extended family. And LA Guns and a bunch of other bands out there.
Love LA Guns.
Ricky Rocket from Poison is a very good friend of mine.
You know what's funny, dude? I think Ricky Rocket from Poison has to be like a big military supporter.
He is.
Because, he only, how sometimes you get a follow from someone on Twitter and you'll see they're following like 1 million people? He follows me on Twitter, and he's only following a few hundred people.
Right.
So I realized he has to know me from the podcast world or something. And I know he's a guy into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. So he must be a guy who follows like our whole world of Chris Peranto and Jack Murphy, and which I think is so cool because I love Poison,
I never had that conversation with him, but I will.
Yeah, I'd love to get Ricky Rocket in the studio, man. And as you know, Mark Slaughter does the outro music for this.
Right.
Mark is a super cool guy. Loves the military. I mean, every single night that Mark does Fly to the Angels with Slaughter, he invites military members up on stage. And
we played with them a couple of years ago in Houston, Faster Pussy. When I say we, I mean Faster Pussycat.
Yeah.
And we played with Slaughter, and I got some video of the drummer on here that I'll show you later.
The current one, Cheney, he's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's sick. But yeah, I love slow. I didn't know that they used to be the Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
Yeah, Mark and Dana were in
Right.
the Vinnie Vincent Invasion with Kiss's guitarist Vinnie Vincent,
Vincent,
who was like a social recluse for many years and has since come back. But yeah, those guys separated and kind of did their own thing, along with Bobby Rock, who's now doing stuff with Lita Ford. There's a lot of history there. I would love to get Mark on the show to talk about it. But so wait, how did you meet Ricky?
So I've known Tammy Down from Faster for a long time, and them two had the Cat House
Yes.
Hollywood. All right, so
Legendary
Yeah.
Sunset Strip venue.
So, every year they do Ricky's Ride, and they ride their motorcycles around the country. I mean, they put 18,000 miles on their motorcycles riding around the country, both of them. And Ricky does it every year. So they were coming through Houston, and Tammy's like, hey, we're coming through Houston. So I went and I met him, and we stayed at my buddy's house, and me and Ricky hit it off, and we've been friends for 10 years now.
Wow.
And I go do a motorcycle ride in Virginia every year. My friend's son got blown up in Iraq in 2005 near Haditha. He was a Marine at the Haditha Dam.
It's a dam. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Charlie Company. And every year I go do that. And Ricky has moved to Mooresville, North Carolina. So I fly in. Ricky picks me up at the airport. I go rent a bike, hang out with Ricky that night. I go do my ride, come back, hang out with Ricky, do a ride. He takes me to the airport.
Nice.
And, and we've met across the country. And lately, there's a bar. I don't go back to Eagle Pass, Texas, because it's the border. I got no business being there. I got a couple of friends. Don't have no business being there. But there's a guy who's got a club down there called Cooters now, and he's bringing all these big bands down there, and he's been hiring Ricky to go down there and, DJ. The mayor of Eagle Pass made October 25th Ricky Rackman Day. And this is the border town where I used to work as a border patrol agent.
Wow.
And it's right across from Piedras Negras, Mexico. And he's like, man, you want to go down there with me? Because I don't know about this place. So I said, yeah, let's go. So I pick him up at the airport. He flies into San Antonio. We drive down. He's one of my best friends, man.
He seems like a really cool guy.
He's a great
man.
guy.
And I mean, he must have so many stories because he got to interview all these bands. And sometimes those bands, like I believe Guns N' Roses played the Cat House before anyone knew who they even were.
Mm-hmm. And he's such a humble guy too. I mean, we sit there and he'll talk about the Cat House and stuff, but he doesn't bring up that he knows all these people, and we just have a good conversation. He's such a humble guy. But the Cat House, man, a lot of people played there back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it stuck around, and he's bringing it back. I'm actually wearing a Cat House Hollywood sweatshirt.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, because I see the Black Rifle t-shirt.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Those are my boys, too.
Okay, cool. But, yeah, I mean, you know what's funny? I've never been there, but I look at all those old Guns N' Roses videos, and I'm like, I have to take a trip to L.A. and see all those old Sunset Strip venues just because
I was there
I
during
love
that time, man.
music. And, yeah, you got to experience it.
Yep. Yeah, it was great, and we stayed, and we had a Hertz Penske truck, and we drove out there from New York, and we were literally staying in there. We were just a band from New York. We played with Fast and Pussycat. We played with Rick Derringer in San Diego. We played with a band called the Cherry Bombs, which had two members, Nasty Suicide and Andy McCoy from Hanoi Rocks.
Oh, wow.
And,
yeah.
Yeah. And Sammy Yaffa from Hanoi Rocks lived here in New York at the time. He's a good friend of mine as well.
And I mean, what they're unfortunately most known
And
for is one of the members being killed in that car accident with Vince Neil. So
Right, and I won't get into that because
I mean, it's a crazy story.
Yeah,
it really is.
Razzle was a really good guy. I knew him as well. And back in the 80s when I used to hang out here in New York, the New York Dolls, I was Sylvain's roadie whenever he played bands. He had a couple of bands called The Trash. I was his roadie. And all the old guys, Johnny Thunders, Steve Baders, Joey Ramone. I used to drive Joey Ramone home.
Wow.
He lived in Flushing. You know,
New York Dolls, who's the Buster?
David Johansen. Yeah, David Johansen, who's also Buster Poindexter.
Buster Poindexter, yes. Dude,
Yep.
Those guys were. You see them dressed. There's some dudes that do actually look decent and all dressed up in makeup and stuff.
Like
he
you?
did. He didn't look good in makeup at all. Those guys really did. I never saw them live, but I saw live shows that they did on TV and they did have a hell of a live show. And of course he became an actor after, didn't he? He was like on Scrooge.
Yeah, he was
in
Scrooge. He did quite a few things. Yeah.
You know who I was going to mention too, since you mentioned the Ramones, we got to get him on here. One of the nicest guys, man, has become a friend of mine. CJ Ramone, who replaced Dee Dee Ramone, was also a Marine. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, definitely a big supporter of, this whole world of things. And I'm sure he'd love to come on here with Chris. But yeah, CJ served as a Marine and is still out there doing music.
That's amazing. And notice how I'm just kind of being quiet too, so I don't say something wrong again.
You think the Ramones are not still making music?
Just listen to them on the radio. Chris, the band broke up like 10 years ago. They're not going strong anymore.
I mean, it's so cool because like my previous gig at Sirius XM, I really did get to meet a lot of these guys. And who are you showing me here? This is the New York Dolls.
Yeah,
very cool, man. I did get to meet a lot of these bands, and all this music that I grew up on, and it's something we kind of said on a previous episode with you, Chris. I'm even trying to think of when I said it. Once you get to meet all these guys, I think at first it might be, probably you going to LA for the first time, starstruck, being in the same room. But after a while, you realize, man, there's like,
regular
once
people.
you have these like one-on-one conversations, we're all kind of the same, have our own story. And there's the exception of the rules of a few guys you meet who are dicks who think that, believe their own hype. But most people that I've met, guys that you've met too, Chris, like Phil Labonte, and I've met Aaron Lewis. Couldn't have been a cooler guy.
He's awesome.
A lot of these guys are so chill and very humble, down to earth.
The most arrogant. I've met more arrogant people as far as government levels, generals and directors of the CIA and NSA heads and stuff. They're more arrogant than you ever find as far as most of the Hollywood people or the rock stars out there. They're the ones that I've found that are more pretentious than just meeting just a normal good dude. Just sitting. I'll be honest, even just sitting first NRA Ted Nugent.
Okay,
Uncle Ted.
He seems like a great guy. From the one time I talked to him,
he's got his opinion, but he's not being a dick because he's now Ted Nugent. Ted believes in what he believes in. I don't agree with everything, but
I would love to get him on the show.
Yeah, he would be. I wish I had that. Maybe I have that contact somewhere.
I have someone because the thing is, he's gone on WillCal before, and my only interaction with Ted Nugent was, I called him up to go on WillCal, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to put you on hold. Connect you with Andrew WillCal. We're really excited to have you on." And he's like, "You should be excited to have me on. I'm excited to come on. I'm an exciting motherfucker." That's Ted Nugent.
He's already drinking the Red Bull and Bang. He's like 3 bangs already. Ted, put the Bang down. No more Mountain Dew for you, dude.
And then my experience with Aaron Lewis, who I got to know from WillCal. This is another reason of don't believe everything you read in the media, because there's always these articles that pop up about that Aaron Lewis is a dick somehow. He stopped the show for this reason or that reason, and he has stopped shows a few times when the audience doesn't stop talking. There was one time he stopped the show because some young girl was crowd surfing and he saw guys grabbing at her breasts and stuff. Right. And he was like, he's like, "I'm a father. You should be ashamed of yourselves." And somehow that gets painted that Aaron Lewis is a dick because he's looking out for young girls in the crowd. Couldn't be a nicer guy. I don't know if he still does. The one thing I could say for him, and he was open about it at the time, the man loved to smoke weed. Because I remember being backstage with him, WillCal, and Mike Binns, who at what was PlayStation Theater, which is no longer around. He had like a Chinese Tupperware box full of weed just for one show. They weren't even on tour. And he's backstage smoking with Mike. And it was a 9/11 benefit show, so he wanted to go on stage at 9/11, and the money went to victims' families and all that. Aaron believes in all that, so he's getting high as hell before he goes on stage and can somehow function fine like that.
How can you fix that? How can you
I don't know, but he's turning to Mike every few minutes, and he's like, "Bro, what time is it?" And Mike is like, "It's 9 o'clock." He's like, "All right, cool." And he's like, 2 minutes later, "Hey man, what time is it?" He's like, "Yeah, it's just 2 minutes ago, dude. It's 9:02 because you're just waiting to go on stage at 9:11." And they put together an amazing performance. And here's something you don't normally hear. He did the Pledge of Allegiance in the middle of the show. And people forget, like, Aaron Lewis and Stained, they're not some, obscure band. I mean, Stained has probably a good 20, top 40 hits. They were huge. And Aaron is not afraid to wear his patriotism on his sleeve. I mean, he's got "Don't Tread on Me" in his neck, and he's very open about, you know, his support for Donald Trump, his love of the country, and, you know, that's who he is, and he's proud to say it.
The reason they write such great songs is because they smoke so much weed.
I don't know. People say some that smoke it. Some of them that do become more creative. I don't know. Hey, guys out there, I have had a joint or two back in the day. I ain't no more creative. I want Cheetos and I fall asleep. I ain't creative at all.
The last time I
don't know how people get creative like that.
Yeah, me neither, because the last time I smoked weed was like probably 2012, and I just got paranoid. I just think I was not with the right person. I started flipping out on him. I started accusing him of lacing it with something.
You can't smoke with Cypress Hill and be real. You can't do that, man.
This guy ended up crying. He thought I was going to like fight him. You know, so I realized now. I remember as I was coming down, I was like, "Hey, I apologize for yelling at you, man. This is the last time I'm ever smoking weed." And he's like, no, you're cool, man. This is not going to be the last time. I'm like, no, for real. This isn't for me. I'm done with this. And it's been, like I said, it's probably been close to 10 years since then. So it really was it for me. Not my thing, man. I don't know.
Gary has never smoked weed ever. Gary, you never have. Everybody, never ever. And just say yes. Nod your head saying yes, because you're a former federal agent and you're trying to get your name cleared. So it's just me and Ian that have smoked weed in the past.
I'm glad you made that clear, sir. I appreciate that.
I mean, nowadays though, it's pretty much legal everywhere. I don't even
even law enforcement agencies are lowering their standards. They're like, you can't have smoked weed in the past 3 years. You cannot have done cocaine in the past 5.
Well, how long have you been here in New York on this trip? Did you just get here today?
I got here Tuesday.
All right, I'm guessing just walking around, you've smelled weed every day
5
somewhere.
times today.
Yeah.
Well, what passes for weed today? Did they synthesize it through a skunk's asshole now? That shit's not weed, dude.
It's everywhere you go, though.
What is that? Is that what weed is now? And it smells like a skunk's ass coming out of some dude's vaping cigarette, whatever the hell that. Because I smell all the time. I was like, that. I don't remember weed smelling like that back in the day. Are they shitting on it now? And does the mad shitter get a hold of it? Now they have to dry. It's just awful. So are you out there smoking weed nowadays? Somebody help me out, because it just stinks. It is the worst. That's not what I remember weed smelling like.
I can't answer weed questions because I know what it smells like, but I don't even know what they do to it these days. All I know is if you're bringing it across the country, I was going to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Well, good answer, man. That's actually, and that is a good, honest answer.
And you know what was funny? It was fun. What I loved about that part of the job, getting back to that real quick, is, you know, I always said I've always been good at, like, you know, bucking shit up. Yeah. You know, if no matter how hard you planned your drug move, if you planned it for months and you had A, B, and C planned and you were executing it and you were coming across and I just happened to roll up on you, your plan was screwed, because I was taking your weed and taking you or one or the other, you know, because you were coming with me one way or the other. And it's what I loved. I loved serving the country. Yeah. I love keeping the stuff from entering. Sorry, man, you don't get to smoke your weed anymore. But you know what? They always say that the reason it's coming across is because there's so much demand. You know, they bring in so much supply because there's so much demand. So you know what? Grab the snake by the throat.
Which, by the way, is probably why it's good that at this point there is the, you know, medicinal marijuana and that it's, you know, done at a legal level in these states so that it's not supporting these drug cartels, you know, because I don't care about people getting high. I really don't.
I don't either. The only thing I care about is against the law.
Yeah. No, you're just doing your job. You're enforcing the laws that are made. You didn't make the laws.
Exactly.
So I fully get it. Hey, so you know what I wanted to at least mention? I mentioned it at the beginning, so you might as well give our take on it. What the fuck is going on with Trump hiring Alan Dershowitz as a lawyer? So here's what I don't get, man. And for some reason, when I mention this on my own Facebook, there's people coming up with every defense in the book for why they're okay with this. But I'm just going to say, man, if you were someone sharing all these memes about Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, which he didn't, you know, and the Clintons' ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which are absolutely true, which Trump talked about and retweeted all this stuff, then why would you hire a lawyer who is hanging out on Lolita Island with Jeffrey Epstein, who has at least been accused of being given an underage girl by Jeffrey Epstein himself? And I don't even need to hear that much, because if you were on Lolita Island, what do you think was going on there? I definitely think, and this is allegedly because legally we have to say that, I think Alan Dershowitz is likely a pedophile. Why are you hiring this guy as your lawyer? And just me tweeting this out, people are like, well, he's got to put his morals aside. He's a great constitutional attorney. And it's like, you couldn't find a constitutional attorney who didn't spend his time with Jeffrey Epstein on Lolita Island. There's no one else out there.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's your question, brother.
You guys, I don't get it. I don't get it. And this is not me. This is not me bashing Trump for those who are going to take it that way. I mean, I am pretty sure if Hillary Clinton had to hire a lawyer and hired Alan Dershowitz, we would be on her ass, as we should be.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. Go ahead, man. That's you. I'll field it. Field it, brother.
No, the only thing I can say is he's looking at, because he's actually on the other side of the party. So the only reason I can see is that he's trying to get, some bipartisan attorneys to be on his side.
Yeah. And to be fair,
that's the only thing I can really
and to be fair, Gary's trying to get a pardon from the guy.
Yeah.
Chris.
So
Chris, you should give your take on this because you're not looking for anything.
Gary, good answer. Leave it at that. Don't say anything else. We're cutting you off right there.
I'm wondering. No, Chris.
No,
I mean,
but that's what I honestly. That's probably the only answer that I can come up with.
For sure. Yeah.
Because
my take again on this is stupid decision. We can rationalize it every way in the book, just like other administrations and has rationalized their decisions, or people have rationalized their takes on how to condemn other politicians' decisions. To me, it looks the same. When you tie in pedophilia, and right there, when you just put that, you're done. I don't care how good you are. I don't care.
And it's just like he could have hired any attorney but Alan Dershowitz, and I wouldn't have cared. But you hired the one guy who's tied to Jeffrey Epstein.
But this is why politics, I always tell people, and you see me on my Facebooks, I don't take a side. Hey, this is right's way over here. They're crazy. Left's way over here. They're crazy. Let's find you in the middle. This is why I don't like politics. This is why because it's not even politics is Hollywood now. It's a sideshow. It's a complete clown show. Just have politicians are really, they are better not seen or heard. Just do your job, run the country. But to me, I think this is also,
but they won't do that.
They want to make a spectacle. This is another spectacle. Hey, here we go.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a spectacle for the wrong reasons. I don't think anyone's going to go, way to go. You hired Alan Dershowitz, who's a great attorney, but has been accused of horrendous things, and it probably did do horrendous things. I really do not get the rationale. I have no idea why this is who he would hire to defend him. He could have gone with anyone else. And I don't get the people who ride this hard for any politician. Right. There's people that I love. If anybody hired Alan Dershowitz, I would say the exact same thing. I just don't know why.
Why?
It doesn't make any sense to me. I'd like to hear, because Trump was, and I'll say this, I actually gave Trump the benefit of the doubt when that video came out, and I really do, of him, you probably saw it, Chris, of him with Jeffrey Epstein, and they're looking at some women on a dance floor who are of age. They're like women in their 40s, and you can see Trump going, she's hot, she's hot.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Trump is almost like Paris Hilton. He's like a celebrity who people love to go out and take pictures with. He's probably met everybody. There was nothing that weird about the video. I'm sure that Trump has been seen with just about everybody. So that's how I took it. He's unlike Bill Clinton. He's never been to Lolita Island. There's no picture. There's a framed picture where Jeffrey Epstein lived of Bill Clinton in a blue dress, in a stained blue dress,
red shoes,
which I think was his way of saying, I talked about this with Jack actually on his podcast. His way of saying, I got you by the balls. Like, right. I know what you're up to. So that was way more suspicious to me than a video of Trump out at some nightclub in Mar-a-Lago somewhere. But then when I saw he hired Dershowitz, I said, why? Yeah. What were you saying? Sorry, man. No, that's it. Go ahead. I made my point. You're good. What were you saying?
No, I like the video with the Trump and Epstein. I looked at like stupid again. I didn't put any stock because it was a couple guys out there looking at women of their own age or close to. Yeah, I was like, whatever. The media again trying to spin something out of nowhere. And they'll do that. They do that with 8 million stories. Here, one of these is going to stick.
Because they played that video ad nauseum, but they didn't talk about the fact that they have flight logs of Bill Clinton going to Lolita Island, Jeffrey Epstein, something like 36 times. What was he doing there? And I've heard people be like, oh, they're having like business meetings. Come on, man. That's not what was going on there. And we know that.
And that's where people, common sense, that's where you're talking. And I know Gary talks too, and people are actually starting to see through that. And that's why I continue to preach. Don't believe that bullshit you're seeing don't believe it on Fox. Don't believe it on CNN. It's in the middle. Find it in the middle. Start using your common sense. And people are doing that. But, and they're going to use your common sense with Dershowitz. But common sense is too, you're bringing another big name in. It's a spectacle. We need to make a spectacle out of it, because maybe it's just going to turn it even to more of a ridiculous clown show with the stupid and this impeachment is stupid. It's ridiculous. I'm not defending Trump on it, but honestly, it's the dumbest thing in the world.
The money spent on it has been ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
and you're still trying to get rid of. You're still trying to effect an election that you lost. Get the hell over it. Right. Just leave it. It's stupid. That's why we don't even pay attention to that stupid impeachment. But the Dershowitz thing, I don't think it's a good thing that can help him. But again, I'll be honest with it, Ian, anymore. I don't care.
Yeah.
I've done well when Clinton was president, myself as far as family. I've done well in Bush. I've done well, even though I didn't agree with Obama, and I served my country. The majority of the years that I served were under Obama, and I did well then. I'll be honest anymore. I don't care who the president is anymore. I'm going to keep living my life and doing well regardless who's in charge. So I'm tired of looking at it. Screw it. Dershowitz, probably not a good decision in my book. I don't think so. I'm agreeing with you. When you get the pedophilia side, it completely pedophilia. Nope. That's a no job starter there. You are not hired. You're a pedophile. But in saying that, I'll be honest, I don't even care anymore. I don't care. I'm just going to keep living my life, and whoever president is, that's whoever it is. I think Trump does a great thing with the economy. His work in the economy should speak in itself for a re-election. That, just leave it at that. But it's just all this other bullshit keeps coming out all the time, and some of it's warranted, some of it's not. But it's for us to be entertained, and that's what the office of the presidency has become, basically an entertainment position, and that was started with Bill Clinton and it's just progressed. Even now, it's not even an office of it's not even a job anymore. It's an entertainment position, so people can watch and be entertained and either argue about their political thoughts with each other. I don't care. I don't even care anymore. I just, whatever happens. I'm going to still be in Nebraska here, freezing my nuts off today.
Yeah,
same over here.
And it was like summer here 2 days ago. I don't get what's going on. It's crazy. Oh, you know what I was going to ask you guys, man, as we're wrapping things up here? It'll be over by the time that this airs, but are you guys going to watch the Conor McGregor Donald Cerrone fight tonight?
Oh,
yeah, I'm excited for that. I just put on Instagram the clip of Pat Miletich when he was on saying that he thinks Cerrone is going to win. I would like Cerrone to win. I'm going McGregor.
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty even fight, brother.
It's gonna be a good fight,
but money down, you'd have to give me odds on one of the, because I wouldn't. I think it's pretty even, man. I don't know. I really don't know who's going to win.
It's going to be tough. I think McGregor's going to take it as well.
Yeah,
he's another one that doesn't quit.
Yeah. When this goes up Monday, we'll know. I guess wrapping things up, and I know that this is something Chris has been wanting to do every show, and I agree. With all that you've been through, we've been trying to do this thing of talking about inspirational thoughts, or probably people going through the same thing. I mean, there's probably people who are in prison somehow listening to this on SoundCloud. You never know. Or just got through a sentence or something like that, or transitioning back to life after the military. What would you tell those people?
Yeah. There was a sheriff's deputy in Rock Springs. His name was Gilmer Hernandez, and when he got out of the prison, we had the same prosecutor. And when he got out of the prison, I told him that it's going to take him a long time, because my friends told me it took me almost 2 years to come back to my normal self. When I got out, I was asking my friends if I can go to the bathroom. I'm serious, because I was that institutionalized. They told you when to sleep. They told you when you take a shower. They told you when to eat. I was so institutionalized, and with, for example, like the president, he's the president. He's a billionaire. He's Donald Trump. General Flynn. These are big, strong, powerful people. And look what the government's doing to them. What chance did I have? But when you get out of the prison, you still have all the chances in the world. You just got to keep your mind focused. I know guys In San Antonio, they have this thing called a repeat offenders program, ROPE, they call it. And it's a San Antonio police program. And they watch people who get out of the prison to see what kinds of crimes they're committing. Don't fall into that. Just keep focused. Pray to God. Pray to your country. Trust your friends. Let me rephrase that. Trust your good friends. So,
you find out who your circle gets, and I've been there, brother. The circle gets smaller and smaller, and that's okay. Trust your good friends, even if it's only 2 of them. That's still, I'd rather have 2 good friends than 100 fake, 98 fake friends out there with only 2 good friends. So I get you.
Surround yourself with good people, and just remember, nobody owes you nothing. I don't think nobody. One thing I've learned, I've replaced the word deserve with earned. I don't think I deserve a pardon. I think I earned one. Just like hey, if I get my ass whooped, I don't deserve to get my ass whooped. I probably earned it. I put myself in that situation, and I try to replace that. You don't deserve anything. You need to earn it. Just because you're my son, you're not getting you don't get the right to use my car or just do whatever you want on my house. You have to earn that right. And that's one of the big things that I learned. And you need to put yourself out there and work hard. And you're going to have your ups and downs because those are never, ever going to go away. But stay focused and stay in the fight and press on. That's the only thing I can think of is just keep moving forward. Never quit. Never, ever, ever quit. And believe me, Chris, Ian, when I tell you, and I've said this before and I'm not ashamed to say it, sometimes I wish quit was in my vocabulary. I wish I can just,
Yeah.
I'm done with it because I'm tired. I'm kind of tired of life sometimes because I've done everything I've wanted to do in my life, even if it was for a little while, and right now I'm kind of at the low part and I'm just like, so just tired. And everybody's like, well, you're going to rise out of this. I said, I know I'm going to rise out of this. I'm just tired of rising up from the bottom.
But I'm just telling you,
I've started so many times, just, but never quit. Just keep moving forward because it's going to go up again. And believe in yourself, and you can do it. Everybody can do it. If you can't make it in this country, there ain't no way you're gonna make it, man.
Yeah. Well said. But I use the analogy of coming through that tunnel. Sometimes I go in that tunnel and it gets dark, but you just keep going through the tunnel. Eventually, you're gonna come out with the sunlight on the other side. And we say the same thing. Always just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Yeah, some days might suck. Some days are awesome, and that's okay. That's life, man. That's how it is. It's a roller coaster. Enjoy that roller coaster. Enjoy going up and down on that thing. Just don't ever give up. The words you said are the same things that I say, and the same things all of us say. And people, gosh dang, we hear that all the time. But it's as simple as that. Don't quit. Just keep going forward. Take baby steps. Even if that baby step is just getting your ass out of bed and going downstairs and walking to the mailbox instead of laying in bed for 6 more hours because you're depressed.
Right.
That still is a baby step, and it continues. And yes, so I feel you, brother, and you're doing good. You're doing good, and I think your story is motivating. And no, I definitely want you to get a pardon. And I think I know you deserve it. I'll say that you deserve it.
I agree.
From my end. I know when you say it amongst yourself, it sounds like entitlement. I deserve this. That's an entitled statement. Where you say I earned it, that makes more sense. But from somebody on outsider talking about you, I feel that you've deserved it. Yes, you've earned it.
Thank you, brother.
But you deserve that pardon. And believe me, with the pardons that have gone out recently that weren't deserved or earned, you definitely deserve it. You do. And like the Raven 23 guys out there, I think they deserve a pardon with what's going on as well. But you're specifically, but what you can do is keep staying positive, bro, like you are, Gary, is just showing people that, with all that went on, I could have really went in a shell and hated life, maybe even turned to a life of actual serious crime because of me being shit on, and I didn't. And here I am still fighting.
Like I said, don't think I didn't think about it, but doing the wrong thing is easy.
And to be fair, Trump has done other pardons that I completely agree with. First Lieutenant Michael Behenna, for example. Michael Behenna was a guy who was interrogating a terrorist, at least claims to have had something thrown at him, a rock thrown at him, and this guy was a terrorist who had done a lot of different things. And Michael Behenna, out of self-defense, shot the guy, and did quite a lot of time in military prison. I'm glad the guy got pardoned. I think First Lieutenant Michael Vahena was acting in his defense. I definitely give him the benefit of the doubt in the situation when I've heard. So I think there's been pardons like yours so far that I think it just needs to get on his desk. Once it's on his desk, I think he'll see it and it'll be a no-brainer.
I feel strong that if he saw my story and saw the things that me and him have in common, we're both from New York. Both from New York. I happen to be a real estate agent, and the fact that, he loves the Coast Guard. He loves the Border Patrol. He loves the Coast Guard more than the Army.
He got close to the mic to say that.
Like I said, I disagree with Trump on quite a few things. So there's something else I'll disagree with him on. You put that one on the list.
But, excuse me. Like I said, I know that if he reads my story and he hears the details and just sees what it is, I'm pretty sure he'll do something about it. And you know what? If he decides not to, then I have to swallow that pill and keep moving forward. You know? But at least he got to it and he saw it. That's my main goal, is to just get it to him. And
is Chris peeing right now? What is that?
Oh, sorry about that, dude. Yeah, no, I actually had some stuff on my hands. So
I'm like, I just hear water pour.
Turned on slow and like, oh crap, it's coming out. Oh, yeah. Actually, yes, I'm peeing right now as we're doing this podcast. And did you hear that? It sounded like Mr. Ed. That was a lot of pee coming out. Can we stay just in that, going through the positive final stages of the show? And here I am. Everybody think I was peeing, but that's how positive and confident I am in myself, is that I can pee on my own podcast. And it's still going to be successful. Holy shit, that's funny.
When I worked on Mojo Nixon's show,
can somebody save me here, please?
When I worked on Mojo Nixon's show, he had to run to the bathroom in the middle of his own show, and the thing was, it was live radio, so he really had to, just go. He was like, actually, and Mojo's got that strong, like, North Carolina accent. He's like, I'm on the toilet, getting your calls.
Oh, bro, Gary, you're awesome, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Keep doing what you're doing, and that's the kind of podcast we are, and we want to know what's going on, and we're going to be. We just want to hear how yes, you were, in my opinion, wrongly convicted.
Thank you.
But that you haven't let it beat you. And it's cool though that you're still, and you admit it, like, I still don't know really what I want to do with my life. I'm out, but I'm still looking for it, and I'm still looking forward to, with a positive attitude, and I'm not giving up on it. And I think that's the coolest in the world. You remind me of Kung Fu, man. You're taking that journey. You're walking.
Well, Chris, this divorce had a lot hit me real hard, because I was with it for a long time, and I raised the girls for 6 years, and one of them was like my own daughter. I mean they both were, but one of them didn't know that I wasn't her daddy, and it's just hard losing everything. So now I'm just kind of drifting. I didn't want my marriage to end, but it did. And now I'm just, trying to figure out what my next step is to move forward, grab life by the horns and move forward. Yeah. But, that's one of the things that hit me hard. And I'd like to get this pardon so I can just keep on hitting that corporate level and moving on up.
Yeah, well,
it's just the east side. Hey, and just so you know, I've been through 2 divorces, and they're never easy.
No, sir.
But yeah, they will heal over time. And honestly, the second divorce that I had, after 3 years of us being divorced, we reconciled. So I don't know if that's a possibility down the line, but just what I'm trying to say is that that's not the end of the world either. Yeah, it's hard. It's like you do feel an empty feeling, because I didn't get, I got visitation with the children, but really she got the children where you're the man. You're like, well, I'm on my own now. It's a big void. But still stay positive, keep fighting through it, keep pushing through it. And, maybe down the line, like I said, myself and my wife, she's my wife again, so we've since reconciled. I didn't think it was going to happen when we got divorced, but we did. And that was something, because I stayed positive. I didn't give up. Just keep finding your way, brother. And that's all I did. I just found my way.
Move forward, man. I mean, you can't quit.
As you said, as we say, never quit. Gary is on Instagram at gary.brugman.uscgvet. Once again, thanks to Jeffrey for coming in. He has to run for a dinner, but it's facebook.com/Warrior Defense Project. Chris, have an awesome time at SHOT Show. For the listeners, in the meantime, any questions for the podcast, email battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. Anyone looking to sponsor upcoming shows, we got some great people coming on board. You can email me, ianscottoradio@gmail.com. And we are over our 2-hour mark of recording at least here, so we got to run. But man, have a great time at SHOT Show. I won't be there this year, but hopefully you'll be there representing the podcast and letting people know what we're doing.
I will be, brother. But
I'm going to go one day.
It's a good
brother,
time, man. It is.
Gary, go once after that. No, I mean the gun show, SHOT Show, and the porn convention are at the same time. and anymore, you can't even tell the difference between the two. How many shaved bodies are everywhere? So it's not. Go once and then you got out of your system. Don't go again. It's kind of ridiculous. But I have to go. And the sponsors that have me go there, they're great people. Maximum Defense and Fort Scott Munitions. So I go as part of them because they're awesome people.
That's all for this week's Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk, so make sure you're subscribed. And keep up with the show 24/7 on Facebook and Instagram at Battleline Podcast. Also on Twitter at Battleline Pod. As always, never quit.